I believe, live on everything. Just sure stuff's working. Oh, YouTube still says it's going live. Oh, now we're live. All right.
All right, welcome everybody. This is the 034 Motorsport live chat, episode 100 and something.
113.
113. All right. And as always, I'm Javad Shadzi. This is Nate Stewart, and we are here to answer all your burning inquisitive questions about all things 034 Motorsport.
We'll even ask some from time to time.
Yes. Certainly anything about our products and services, about the company's history, anything you'd like to know from us as to professional automotive aftermarket parts people. We take a no BS approach to responding to questions. We like to just, cut to the core of the matter, and we really don't ascribe to, snake oil and bullshit and stuff like that. So as a company, I would say that's why our products are so good. And generally, we do things very well in the industry because we really don't concern ourselves with false or fake or the wrong things.
Well, yeah, and I think also, despite what some people think, we care a lot about the product, the experience, and what we're doing here. We're all car people. We live this stuff day in, day out. So we want you guys to have as much fun with it as we do.
Can we get the questions cleaned up?
A lot of these are submitted between the last one and this one.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we have some questions rolling in already, so we'll get started. Something I want to discuss, and we've discussed, and I think we'll take some accountability as far as creating this dynamic. But I would say from our perspective, we don't want this to just be all about updates. I think it's fine to talk about some updates, but literally the entire thing turns into answering updates. And here, there's nothing inherently wrong with accurate updates. The problem is we rarely ever have accurate updates about anything. Because creating new products and bringing them to market is a very complex, sometimes difficult, extremely unpredictable process because we don't know what we're going to find. We're taking a science-based approach to creating these products. That means we test them. We are going to be doing new things that we've never done before, that nobody's ever done before necessarily in this market. And so it's not like, we're baking a pineapple upside down cake that has a recipe. And once it's been in the oven for 48 minutes, it's done and we take it out. We're not doing that. So we are creating the new cake recipe that you've never eaten before, that we've never baked before.
With the ingredients we've never used before.
Yeah. In many cases, some ingredients we've never used before. So we'll do our best to give some updates here and there, but for the most part, I'd like to start backing away from this being completely all about updates.
Yeah, we just want to set expectations that we're giving you what we can, but we never want to overpromise and underdeliver either. So, we're trying to get this stuff as quickly as we can. We understand if you guys want it. So it's good to hear what you guys are looking for, and how burning some of this stuff is. But we can't always.
These update questions.
Base deadlines on what we can talk about here.
They're perfectly nice questions that have no answer.
Yeah.
And so we're left with just kind of like trying to set some vague expectation, and it hasn't been working great.
Yep.
So
Back to vague ETA section.
Right.
yeah, so we will be putting those the update questions in a separate area, and then when we have time, we'll get to those. But we definitely want to prioritize real questions about products, about the company, about services, about interesting automotive topics that everyone would like to discuss. How close is...
Yeah, he hasn't moved that one yet.
This is the release for Stage 1 1 Plus on B9. Okay, well, I will talk about this. So we do have Stage 1 Plus and 2 Plus done.
Yep.
We are simply in the post-engineering processing phase of making it available to the market. I would like this to be released tomorrow. We will do our best to get this on our server and flashing as soon as we can. Mm-hmm. But it is done. It is imminent. Yep. Whether it's Thursday or next Tuesday, I can't say, but it's, Nate and I still need to talk. But I did email Nate over the weekend
Yep.
and say like, we need to get this released. So hang in there. There's
Engineering's all done. Files are done. So yeah, it's
the file produces more, more fuel.
Yeah, it's a mid-range bump.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see
Takes
it,
advantage
more
of the
mid-range
increase.
power. Numbers wise, I want to say it was around. I think around 30 foot-pounds of torque in the mid-range pickup thereabouts. So
Yeah.
it's noticeable for sure. So, and that's just due to we have more fuel pump available for
Yeah.
us on the ethanol files now. 91 and 93 are not going to be impacted by it.
And this is what we are considering a staged tune. So we will be asking a small fee
Yeah.
to flash this.
Can you explain what
it'll
the
be
plus
cool.
is again, people?
Yes, 1+ and 2+ just means the addition of a fuel pump, high pressure
High
fuel
pressure.
pump. Yeah, in the mix there. So same nomenclature as our RS car, our 2.9T tunes.
Mm-hmm.
We have the 1+ available for that. When you install a fuel pump, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. So the high pressure fuel pump creates more fuel capacity in the mid range, and then our tuning takes advantage of that additional fuel by being able to run more boost, and make more. It's ultimately torque that gets increased, but
Yep.
it's more power. It's more acceleration.
Yeah, it's more under the curve. You've got
Yeah.
more going. So, but it's all going to happen in the low to mid range RPM stuff where we were out of fuel pump before and we are not now.
So hang in there, and again, it'll be a very cheap upgrade, but it will be a small upgrade.
Yep.
Fee.
Yeah.
I think the performance will be huge for
Right.
the bang for the buck will be good. Will we see more than stage 2+ for the S4?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh wait, B8. Okay.
B8 S4.
B8 S4. I mean, we've talked about that before. That really depends on kind of products in the market and what things are going for. We've got some other stuff in the works we're doing right now as well.
Yeah, there will be more.
There will be more.
There will be.
Yeah, both
This
from us and if there's some revolutionary, affordable supercharger, whatever option that comes out that everybody flags to.
just 034. We will push 2+ further. Hopefully this year. We're still in the testing phase.
Yep.
Of some products we will release. There's a lot of talk about a number of various supercharger kits. What's the one that everyone keeps asking?
Right now it's Merc Racing.
Merc Racing has something, and people want to know if we're going to work with it. We don't know. If Merc Racing would like to contact us, if they have a supercharger kit that we could test, I don't know. I don't think they do. I think it's just.
Yeah, I don't think it's hard.
I'm not going to be critical of it. I think it's.
We don't follow.
vaporware.
We don't.
It's basically vaporware. I mean, it's an idea. Maybe some work has been done, but
Right.
there's nothing being sold. There is no Merc Racing supercharger kit unless
That we know of. Yeah.
we're not privy. Yeah. So, and then on top of it, does it actually make more power than the stock supercharger, and is it worth it? So, and then lastly, will anyone be buying it? Because it doesn't. We're not going to spend a bunch of time tuning a supercharger.
Yeah, if you're talking like a $15,000 supercharger kit for your $15,000 S4, that's a tough sell.
Okay, there's another question about will we making a new supercharger power adder for the B8.5? I think we just answered.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, someone asked already, do you think Herc's new blower for the B8 will take the platform to a new level?
that's complete speculation. We don't know
Who
until
knows?
it's there and if they can make it and if anybody buys it. So
There's this thing that annoys me, and I'm not saying this is. I don't know a lot about Merc Racing supercharger, other than the fact that I think there was been some posting about the potential. But in the speaker universe, I build speakers. Someone will post an amazing rendering of a speaker that they spent however much time in CAD creating this rendering. But they don't necessarily say it's a rendering. They talk about the idea, the concept, or whatever. And they talk about it like it's a speaker. It's not. It's literally a CAD drawing. A CAD drawing that makes no sound. So it cannot be a speaker in any way. And then people are just like losing their mind over how amazing it looks. And I'm always the guy that's like, guys, this is just a rendering. Like, it doesn't make any sound. It might not even be buildable. Who knows? So, we live in a world where more and more, increasingly, more and more fake things look incredibly real and can trick us into thinking that they exist.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if there was a Merc Racing supercharger kit sitting on this table, then we could have a different conversation.
And even once it gets to the point where it's a hard item, that's a long way off from making a product. That is,
Well,
that
no,
is-
and that we could only just even evaluate it at that. And like I said, a lot of these aftermarket superchargers have been slower and made less power than the factory supercharger head unit, which is a freaking great supercharger.
yeah.
Audi killed it when they sourced this supercharger unit. It
Yeah, I
was
think
making
people-
320 horsepower.
People really forget how far we've
plus.
gone with it. I mean, it's not an unlimited power tap, but it's doing really well for what we're asking of it. And yeah, I mean, we're nearly double what I would expect for the thing. So.
Okay, let's move on. We got a lot of questions.
Yes.
On the B8 Stage 2 tunes, do crackle tunes run rich to make that effect?
I mean,
No.
inherently, you have fuel being provided when there's generally no fuel at all. So sure, they're richer,
But they're not
but
running.
it's not running rich. It's just providing fuel in an ignition event later in basically the coasting or the decel phase of the
Basically,
combustion cycle.
fuel is injected when the engine's not running.
It's
So
the
that's-
engine's in full decel. So yes, the injectors are on for however long the duration is for the crackle event, and the ignition is manipulated to essentially make that sound.
But just to be clear, we would never run the engine rich under any type of load. Having an engine running rich is bad for the engine. It pollutes. It can damage the engine by washing the cylinder walls down.
Yeah. When we're talking rich, we're talking like outside of a normal targeted expected.
There's a certain amount of richness you can go from stoic to, you can go from lambda of 1 to 0.85, and that could be strategic. That's not running rich. You're just providing more fuel for good, safe combustion. But running rich would be providing excess fuel beyond what can be combusted and what can be used by the engine to produce power, and we don't do that. So, but in order to create crackles, fuel is injected when the engine is off load, and that fuel just goes right through the combustion chamber into the exhaust, and it's basically in a raw or vaporized state.
Yeah, I mean it's ignited, but it's much later in the cycle, so you're going to hear a lot more of that energy release, after the exhaust valve opens, and that's your crackle.
It's just not combusted.
Yeah.
It's not pressurized, propagated combustion.
It's not turned into mechanical energy.
Yeah, and the factory vehicles do it. The way crackles are done does not damage the engine.
Yeah, and this is again, that's a good point. It's a factory strategy on a lot of cars these days because it's so desired by so many people. So yeah, it's done exactly the same.
Actually, all cars used to do this.
Yeah,
even in carburation days, the fuel did not always cut off.
it never did. There's almost, I don't know. I mean,
there's-
until
there
the
was-
computers came in line, like the mechanical stuff, you'd have a vacuum. You'd still have some airflow through the carb, and you'd have some fuel residual after you lifted, and you'd get some popping and cracking
Yeah.
when you got off.
Someone's asking about our big brake kit for B9. I mean, that's kind of an update question. We don't have a release date. I'll just tell you, we went to a very reputable piston caliper manufacturer, and we spec'd a caliper. They sent it to us. We did some testing with it. We determined that the piston sizing needed updating or changing or optimizing. And so we are currently waiting for an updated, optimized brake caliper. The benefit to Audi users is that there will be a much more balanced braking performance. And then I think there's a lot of brake kits out there where they just use the same caliper and they're just throwing, even in the DIY side, people are taking Porsche calipers and throwing them on Audis. You have no idea if the piston sizing is correct. So I think that's something maybe we could release like Q1 or Q2 of next year.
Yeah, and it gets it can get complicated very quickly when you're talking piston sizing on calipers. Mm-hmm. It relates both to the master cylinder sizes, so what's at the pedal, but also the sizing of the pistons. Generally, you're going to have different sized pistons within that caliper, and that affects how basically pad engagement acts on the rotor, and all of that is going to pretty dramatically affect the braking feel and experience and how that pedal responds.
Hi, I was just wondering about the rear roll center correction and how to do it on a lowered car. and the squat with the rear trailing arms on an MQB platform. We do not currently have a roll center product for the rear.
The roll center is
MQB.
a pretty complex thing to measure and sort too.
Yeah, and we don't have that. So doing it in the front has a huge benefit.
You can play with it a little bit with the alignment components that are there, because you can adjust. We have adjustable uppers as well as, stock. The lower has adjustment ranges, so you can move the lengths around back there a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no way to really adjust the center.
Yeah, but as far as like moving your mounting points, the actual pivot points up and down, that's not something we have.
Yeah, and it's much more complicated and expensive to do it in the rear of the car, and there's a huge benefit by doing it up front, and you can do it for like $175 with our ball joints. And eventually our control arm will also assist with that. But the roll center is by far in the ball joints. Older Audis used to have just like the same ball joints in the rear as in the front.
It was a mirror
that
of the
made it
front
really
suspension.
easy to do stuff. But I would say if you can set up your MQB vehicle with all of our suspension and alignment products that we currently have, it will be transformative to the car, and you don't really need to worry too much about the rear roll center. Most of what's happening on MQB cars is front suspension. What are your thoughts on the new RS3, and what expectations on tuning chassis modifications do you have? We're just getting into it. There's not a lot of cars here yet. I don't know how many cars are actually in the US. It could just be like a dozen or two. I'm not sure.
From what we've been hearing, it sounds like the factory tune's a bit spicier than the previous version, so you're getting a little more out of it. Turbo appears to be the same.
It's not that different.
It's not that different. The rear differential appears to be magic.
Yes.
So that I'm excited about.
That's pretty much it. I mean, then you've got like whatever you can do with the fenders and bodywork.
It swallows a lot more tire.
But it's not even the Mark 8 GTI is not that much difference.
Right.
In fact,
interior ergonomics are totally different.
No.
Performance wise, it's going to be similar-ish.
Yeah. So a lot of our current parts do fit the car. We are updating those regularly. We just found out that our Street Sport motor mounts fit that platform. They're direct bolt-in. So if you go on our website and you put in your new RS3 model in there, you'll see what parts we've already deemed fit, and there's more coming. But I think overall the car is probably not going to do a lot more than the last generation 8.5 RS3. It's not that different.
Yeah, I don't think architecturally that much difference. They spiced up the tune a bit. From what we've seen, third party, we haven't had our hands through.
It's a very factory update as far as the average civilian Audi enthusiast would look at the 8.5 and the new one and be like, wow, this car's a lot different. But for us, when we're looking underneath it,
right,
motor's basically the same turbo. And the suspension and basic chassis is the same. Again, the rear diff is awesome.
Yes.
And so I think it could possibly go faster around track corners. I mean, it likely will, but as far as like, it's not like a 3-liter straight 5 or something. Fundamentally, that will allow it to make a lot more power.
Yes, please.
I love the way they look. I think they're gorgeous. Does the B9.5 platform have flex fuel capability with appropriate sensor hardware?
No, those do not have any knowledge of flex fuel inside the ECU outside of a couple of parameters where you can adjust some of the
Stock.
Stock. Outside of parameters that you can adjust some fuel, basically density calculations. But there's no underpinnings in there where we can just like turn on sensor channels and enable hardware sensors. It's not in the code.
Mm-hmm.
So no, those we have to implement from the ground up if and when we do the flex fuel stuff.
That's right. But we can add the sensor.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We do that.
So, and we will.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever release an update to let the end users set the pops and crackles they're liking, like BMWs offer?
We've talked about it. I mean,
we talk about it all the time. We can do it.
Yeah.
It's just a question of how do we want to use our engineering resources, and I think we here all agree that while adjustable pumps and banks would be really nice and cool. It's not necessarily better than doing all the other engineering and tuning
Yeah.
projects that we already have.
Right. That would be like we get to the point where like, okay, we're good with everything. What else are we going to work on next? And in our to-do list is down to nothing.
Yep.
But right now we've got a lot bigger fish to fry. That's really going to make your cars faster, better, in a lot of other ways.
I'm seeing these Russian tuners running great numbers on B9 RS5 Stage 3. When your tune comes out, will it be competitive? Okay, well, I would have just a healthy dose of reasonable skepticism on anything you see from who knows what tuner in Russia. Not that Russia's,
Yeah,
we're
not bagging on all the tuners.
Anywhere in the world. If you see a small tuner producing, in what you call impressive results, I would just be a little skeptical. It could be true. It could be everything it's cracked up to be. It could be totally fake and made up. It could be somewhere in between. We just don't know. I can assure you that whatever we release will be the best tune that we can produce. It will set a standard on the market for power, smoothness, reliability, performance, and I don't think a small little tuner in Russia is going to be able to emulate or outdo the kind of results that an engineering company like that.
I'm trying to even find what they might be talking about.
There's one drag of a Stage 3 RS5 doing a 10.
There was also a small U.S. tuner recently who falsified a draggy dyno slip. Someone that we've talked about on this show before, and he, is very outspoken and has been critical of us. Well, his draggy slip was proven to be a fake. That he pulled one off the internet or something. It's not real. So he was called back recently, and he's still posting like nothing ever happened. It's just kind of mind-boggling. But you'll never see that happen at 034 Motorsport. I know let's just say I'm some crooked, dirty, dishonest person. I'm very confident that if I tried to do that here at this company, that everyone in this room, there's 3 people in here, would all quit.
Right.
So,
yeah. No, none of us are going to tolerate that.
It's not like I could even. I mean, I've chosen not to hire people like that. And I think that when you're a small tuner and it's just you can, on Friday night after too many vodkas, you could just post something, and nobody would know. But here, we have
there's
50 employees.
There's accountability.
I know in our engineering departments, ethics and integrity are very important. And in fact, that's one of the things when we're trying to hire engineers, we spend a lot of time just assuring them that we are this company and that we don't lie.
It's unfortunate that there's a lot that aren't, and it's. I don't want to say it's the status quo, but it's a problem in this industry where it's a lot of opportunity grab and just quick fly by night, or just come in and kind of pillage a community and then move on to the next.
Well, that's what this individual I was just referring to. He's pretty new on the scene, and he's already lying and attacking companies like us who have been around for 20 years. So we recently hired an engineer who's left the company he worked at because he didn't feel like they were honest. So there's that's important here at 034 Motorsport. So we can't just fake stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, it will be not only competitive, it will set a new standard for what you can do with Stage 3 performance on RS5. That's our goal. We're not going to release it until we believe that it's the best it can be. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. And one draggy strip does not a tuner make. It's tough to make these in a fully flushed out, tested, validated set of calibrations.
Okay, this may or may not be a real question. It says, any plans for a 034 garage banner?
It's been asked many times.
This is not a seeded marketing question.
Based on a true story. So here it is.
Guys, Joe.
Joe Mama. And so this is what all the cool people have either in their bedroom or their garage. And it has our logo, Substance Performance. Speaking of which, everything we do has a reason and exists for a reason. So this is a nice banner. And it is on sale on our website for $35 with free shipping. We don't charge for shipping. In fact, we're kind of looking into maybe having free shipping on all our promotional items. So
Exciting.
yes.
Somebody just asked if we could repeat what we said about the RS5. No, but you can go back on YouTube, and all of this will be hosted on, or is being hosted on YouTube, and you can watch all of the old ones for whatever reason you might want to.
In 35 minutes, you can watch this whole thing
Yep.
over again.
Yep.
On any of the platforms. Let's see. This was an interesting question. We never talk about B5s.
B5.
What's the best clutch to right now on a stage 3 S4 B5? So I would say, in my experience, having put maybe thousands or tens of thousands of clutches on B5 S4s, I would say the best clutch on the market is the South Bend kits. Choose whichever stage or version you need to hold the power. But the South Bend kits are really well made. They're very reliable. And most importantly, they stand behind their work. We used to sell a lot of spec clutches, and they had known manufacturing issues, problems. And it got so frustrating because...
Which we understand. I mean...
Which happened, right?
It
happens.
It's not a simple part.
It's terrible for the customer, right? Because you got to drop your transmission. Sometimes the thing just blows up and takes out your whole transmission. But regardless, we would go back to them, and they wouldn't take care of it. They would blame shift, which is very common.
It was always an installation error or improper break-in, or they had like three things they'd always come back with, no matter how clear of an issue we encountered.
But with South Bend, they would say, ship it back to us, we'll take a look, and we'd have the customer ship the clutch back to them. We don't make clutches here. We just resell them. And
we have flywheels that'll adapt clutches around for different...
Well, we make the flywheels, But they then would rebuild the clutch and send it back to the customer. And if there was an issue, they would make an improvement or whatever. So I strongly recommend South Bend. I think they're a great company to work with.
Yeah.
There's a number of like Sachs options on the market. There's the Sachs 707 pressure plate.
Yeah, I believe we still have the B7 RS4 retrofit kit.
Yeah, and that's probably like, I would say for the average stage 3 car. Was this asking about stage 3?
I don't think it spec'd it.
It did.
It did say stage 3.
So I would say for a KO4 stage 3 car, our kit that uses the B7 RS4 clutch kit is the best on the market, just as far as OEM quality, OEM smoothness and engagement. It uses our solid mass billet flywheel, so you reduce some of the mass, but doesn't weigh nothing. Just really smooth engagement, no chatter, and it will hold the power.
It's a very good OEM plus option. Now, if you're beyond that, or you've got some other uses, you want to drag race, you want to, you're track driving a bunch, then
if you've got
more towards the
tile 770s, it's not going to hold that power. But for stage 3 S4, from what we've seen, especially on like pump gas and stuff, I think even an E85 will hold. And that's the best kit. If you need something more than that, I would look at South Bend. Otherwise, check out our kit, and that's all on our website. Let's see. Have any upgraded engine mounts coming for B9? Yes, we have our B9 S4 mounts coming soon. That's these, right?
These are our current.
Yes, but these will follow the same format. So this is a factory mount that we've cut in half, and you can see here there's all the valving inside. This is the servo that changes the valving in the mount, so it actually stiffens the mount up. But there's a lot of this valving in here that, though it serves a purpose, and when the car's new, eventually it fails. And one thing that can happen is the fluid inside here. There's an oil like a hydraulic fluid that leaks out. Once that happens, this mount is just hollow inside and it'll collapse. It has no support.
And keep in mind the project scope of these mounts is to handle a stock amount of power. They're not designed
For drag racing.
Hardcore. We're doubling and more the torque, the horsepower output on these things.
These mounts are not necessarily for heavier duty use, but for like a factory mount, they're much longer life, and they are they handle the chassis compliance. They stiffen up the chassis compliance and make the drivetrain stiffer. But these mounts are the same type of construction as the factory mounts. They're not, the aluminum's not billet, and not, the strength of the mount hasn't necessarily changed, and it doesn't need to be like for your average 600 horsepower B9 S4.
Yeah, I mean, we're running these.
This
on
mount
everything
is great.
here.
So our mount, we have a solid rubber fill in here. We get rid of the valving. We keep the solenoid, so when you plug this into your car, your factory OBD system's happy. It doesn't throw any codes or anything. And then we play with the rubber stiffness, and we optimize that for what we believe is the best performance. So we have the A4 mounts out now, and those are on the market. We've been selling those for a while. And then those do fit the S4, although we would consider them to be stock performance. They would be a much more reliable, say, lifelong product.
It's kind of a longer roll to the stock.
But our S4 street density mounts are on the way, and we will be releasing those very soon. I don't have a firm ETA on those, but I know it's coming very soon. They're pretty far in our handoff process, so stay tuned for those. Those will be a nice, really nice option for the S4 to get the power to the tires more quickly and efficiently without adding a bunch of NVH rattling out your teeth. Are we planning on doing C8 S6 tuning? Eventually, yes. We have no immediate plans to do that. Do you think the stock B9 exhaust is good when tuned, or do you recommend aftermarket? We haven't seen any evidence that suggests it's a major restriction in any way. You can definitely make more power without any exhaust at all.
Yeah, and it's not light.
Yeah.
So there's that.
But I don't think the average exhaust options on the market are going to gain you really any power increase.
Not. I mean, yeah, it's not the old days where you pick up 30 horsepower
No.
from swapping out a stock exhaust.
It might be a small amount. We haven't really tested it. We haven't found the need. For example, on a B8.5 S4, the factory exhaust was very restrictive. I know on the A4, we used to do like we had a really nice 3-inch exhaust with Borland mufflers. That thing would pick up like 30-40 wheel on a car with a GT20.
But like a Nix SQ5 is stock aside from the ResX. Same with our RS5. All the fast times it ran was full stock exhaust. Just put the ResX on after that.
I mean, the SQ5 is in the tens.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, the RS5 is mid tens. Yeah,
yeah.
Full stock exhaust on that.
Yeah, I would say starting in kind of the B7, B8 era, the exhaust got really good.
I'd say B8. Yeah, B7 was, yeah, B8 and up, and then Mark 7.
Like the B8 S4 exhaust, I think is
B8's great. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, B7 S4.
B7 S curves.
Really nice.
Yes, the A4s were not that great. But,
Yeah.
The S
And
curves
then
were good.
like the AJ-TTRS had a wonderful exhaust on it.
Yep.
And I don't think we were able, other than playing with cats and mid pipes, we were never able to gain power with
too.
Yeah.
It didn't really make much of a difference.
Yeah, we have like a 3.5 all aluminum exhaust on that, and it's basically same stock power.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yep.
B9 S5 E85 Stage 1 tune, otherwise stock. I have hit the rev limiter a few times on the 1T shift after spinning the tires. Even cut power and shifted funny once. Will Stage 2 trans tune fix this?
It actually will probably help in that we lower some of the shift points. So if you're spinning tires a bunch, well, I mean, you also just maybe leave with less pedal on the floor because you can kind of adjust the amount of torque you're putting down on launch. Any kind of massive wheel spin is going to be tough for a transmission to deal with.
Yeah, at that point, the ECU's using the rev limit. It's a really
well, yeah. I mean, it's
you're not going to.
There's only so much you can do with a big chunk of wheel spin, and then when it does try and shift, because you're at the rev limiter, what it's doing is you'll hit the rev limiter. The ECU is trying to wait at the ECU and TCU over here to get basically your vehicle speed to match what your tire speed is before it shifts. Because if it shifts mid wheel spin, your tires will just essentially stop to the speed the vehicle's moving now, and your engine RPM is not going to be matched to what it thinks it was going to be shifting to. and that's probably where that you mentioned a funny shift came from. It's tough. It's a very hard situation for a ECU and TCU to deal with. Shifting mid wheel spin on an all-wheel drive car where it's going to basically lock those wheels back into place. During that shift event.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like if you're trying to, climb really fast up El Cap, and you fall off and your rope catches you. I mean, it's a safety mechanism. The rev limiter is sort of like your harness and rope catching you. So I mean, you're not going to die, and then you can get back on the wall and keep climbing. But you're now going much slower up the wall than you would have if you didn't fall off and get caught by your harness. So once you get into the rev limiter hard, at that point, this is kind of the full tilt ECU safety measure to prevent the engine from over revving, and you can now keep accelerating. You can keep climbing up El Cap, but it's not going to be the fastest way up. So the fastest way, when you see people running 9 and 10 second quarter miles, they're staying out of the rev limiter. It's really important to get those fast times because the rev limiter just is inherently a slow thing.
Negative acceleration.
Falling off the wall and not dying is great. Thank goodness for your harness, but you just now lost 2 minutes, getting back on the wall. And, with an ECU, you're going to lose half a second, 300 milliseconds, you're going to lose a second. It depends, So the better you can stay out of wheel spin and optimize that launch speed and stay out of the rev limiter, the better you're going to be. There's some questions in here that we've already answered. Well, I don't know. I saw them. The exhaust question. Just got my 034 lowering springs. Thank you. You're welcome. Enjoy. Let us know how you like them. Tell me exactly what will happen if I run the crackle tune on my B8.5 S4 that still has cats.
You'll be doing exactly what happens. We'll be running a setup we don't recommend. But I mean, there's no exact thing about this. We don't recommend it simply because the catalysts have a hard time surviving stock. It's a means of mitigating the life of the catalyst. So we don't recommend it. We don't offer stock catalyst files with crackle overrun, just for that reason. So we're just doing everything we can, keep as much exhaust energy, reduced as much as we can reasonably. There's no performant reason for crackles, so it's very much a cosmetic only thing.
Yeah,
and we'd like
you could damage your cats, but we don't recommend it.
Yeah, it's going to be harder on them.
Let's keep going. A lot of questions.
Oh yeah.
Would you guys ever Daza swap an A3 hatch? I think the only reason we would do that, there's only two reasons. One, if we wanted to, if we thought that was the best way to build a marketing vehicle to attract attention to our brand, or if a customer came to our service department and wanted to pay us to do it. Is porting the blower worth it? Okay, there's no such thing as porting the blower, right? So you could have 10 superchargers. You could have 10 different people port them. You could even have 5 people each port 2 superchargers each. The question is, what would be the performance of any of those ports? And the people that ported 2 superchargers, do those even match each other, right? So the answer is a supercharger porting job that is optimized to increase the flow of the supercharger some amount will generate some amount of performance benefit. A poorly ported supercharger will actually flow less and make less power. And something that looks really cool and awesome might make no difference. So I would say if there is a specific brand of supercharger porting that is matched or guaranteed to be of a certain specification each and every time, then that could be measured and the power improvement could be determined. But there is no such thing as just porting a supercharger, right?
You can make, it's not necessarily intuitive. Just making holes bigger and removing material does not mean more airflow necessarily. I do know, I don't know all of the guys out there porting now. I know Jokers is doing CNC stuff now on all of their ports. I think
so. A CNC port job should be very
at least repeatable.
Right. Yeah, the repeatability is the key.
To know
if you can determine a certain level of performance, then I think for everyone else, the question is, can we get that too? And a CNC machine should be able to repeat that very closely.
Yeah.
But I do think there are some I don't have a horse in this game, so I don't want to promote anyone's specific porting jobs, but there are some that are more reputable than others. I think you can find out about that. Is it okay to tune if I don't have a sports diff? Do I need to drive it or treat it any differently? No, you don't have to do anything differently.
If I don't have a sport diff, no.
The car won't always have as much power delivery to the rear.
Well, the power delivery to the rear will be the same, but it's going to be the wrong tire and it's getting the power.
But it's not going. You can't deliver the power if the inside tire is spinning.
You're going to be spinning. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Power delivery. So yes, the rear of the car could have more traction. With a sport diff, the rear of the car could step out more, be more active in the handling of the vehicle, which would be good for going fast, which is why people like rear-wheel drive cars with limited slip diffs. But no, your car will be the same. It will just have a lot more power, and then you'll have more fun. I've been running a B9 S4 on 93 Stage 1 with a P34 and Stage 2 TCU. Just switched to E85. Insane. Good.
It is. Yeah, it's a huge difference. It's a whole nother amount of power over your initial.
Yeah. However, the TCU Stage 2 revision is a bit too soft. Oh, here it comes. Can we get the option for the first version, please? Not at this time. No. I mean, we received so much feedback that people's necks were breaking and their faces were ripping off on this 2-3 shift, and so we made the change. It is just as fast.
Yeah,
it's not any slower. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it could be something.
There are 0 changes.
Yeah.
Basically from the first version on anything where you're in a moderately, rapid acceleration.
It's just smoother.
It's just
and
really
less
light
abrupt.
load stuff.
And each of these tunes require us to support it.
Can you clarify again? Like at full throttle?
Yeah, oh yeah, at full throttle, or even I want to say like half to 2/3 throttle, depending where you are and how much
This
boost
is
you make. It's identical.
This was just a part throttle.
It's just super light load.
Yeah.
Your casual driving that's going to be adjusted.
What should I be gapping my spark plugs at? 13 S4 B8.5. If we sell a plug and we recommend anything related to gapping, we will say on the product page. Otherwise, all the spark plugs we sell, all the factory plugs, all the aftermarket plugs like NGK and Denso and reliable plugs, they are all pre-gapped. We don't necessarily have a specific recommendation for gapping.
And it's going to vary so much depending on setup. If you're into that and you want to,
I mean, if you have a B9 3.0T turbo motor and it's making 1,500 horsepower, you're going to be fucking gapping.
You'll be playing with the gaps, yeah.
But on these kind of staged upgrades, we haven't seen any.
I mean, I can tell you right now, I don't think I have ever gapped my plugs in my B8 S4. Like, it's not a thing I've had.
I used to, the last time we messed with it was probably, the Time Attack car, and that was a 700 horsepower 2-liter 4-cylinder that made 550 foot-pounds of torque. And so then yes, you would get misfires, and you would tighten up the gap because there was so much combustion pressure, and by reducing the gap, the spark would ionize and you'd get combustion again. But no, you don't need to do that. Yeah, we don't recommend it. Just make sure your plugs are good and new and not fouled. Oh, I hadn't heard about this. Will you take Adam Blender up on his challenge to drag race at Pacific Waterland this weekend in Oregon? Apparently, this is just a note. He posted a public call out to anyone to drag race him at the show on Saturday, made comments in another thread about how all the people calling him slow and disingenuous on the West Coast have gone silent. Okay, so
I don't think we ever called him slow. I'm not saying this is referring to us. Yeah, others have.
We don't really care about Adam Blender, other than the fact that we gave him the opportunity to come on here and tell us why he thought we were unethical, disingenuous, and a bunch of other terrible stuff. He produced no legitimate response, and then he did finally create a kind of a 30-minute long video outlining like 8 ways we were terrible, and I created a response video and simply explained
so much wasted
in all 8 times. There wasn't one case we had a problem with our product page, and some of the information on the product page wasn't 100% accurate because of an issue with creating websites and keeping information updated. We immediately corrected that, so thank you, Adam, for notifying us on that.
There's a lot simpler way to do that, though.
But I would be happy to go drag race Adam Blender if it would help him start telling people that we were honest and ethical. I don't think it would. So we're not really here to go faster than, I mean, we are faster and more powerful than Adam Blender as far as cars go, but like, we're not going to drive all the way to Oregon to do something with him, and he wouldn't even show up on our remote computerized live chat and just talk to us. So I think we're done with Adam Blender and we're moving on, unless there's a reason to talk about him again.
Yeah, and I mean, so much of the stuff we would much rather you guys go out and run all the fast times. We don't necessarily want to hold the records ourselves. We want you guys to go do it.
It sounds like Adam Blender loves bickering with people on the internet,
But he doesn't. He like just blocks and
yeah. But then he keeps going and keeps doing it, and I mean, you have to ask yourself, if you really hate it so much, why do you keep doing it? Why do you keep engaging people still? So it's the whole thing's bizarre. We're here to make great products and to deliver them to customers and create happy customers. That's what we're here for. And we are honest, we are ethical, and we are not disingenuous.
And if you see something you can call us out on it.
Yeah.
We will talk about it and fix it.
In fact, we invited him on here to tell us to our faces.
We want to know what's wrong. If there's something wrong, we will fix it. We're not gonna, block you and bury your existence.
I just installed your transmission mount for the B9. Why would Audi sell the stock B9 and not address something so simple by just having a firmer mount from the factory? Okay, well, I've talked about this before when we've talked about this before. That particular transmission mount and how it was delivered from Audi, it was that mount, and that the decisions arrived on creating that mount are based on, say, 20 or 30 factors at Audi that they take into account. Most of which have nothing to do with performance or how the car performs or how good the car drives. So there's financial considerations, there's penny pinching, there's budgets, there's laws and regulations, there's crash testing, there are legal liability issues and concerns, many, and I would say that's probably the over-encompassing one, is everything is bounced off through legal. We don't have to worry about that. We don't, we can go in there, we can create a good, solid engineering solution, and we don't have to worry about Audi's legal liabilities, right?
I didn't see the question. Was this the insert or the?
It sounds like
the mount itself.
So as a result of this incredibly complex decision matrix, right? Like, imagine if on a Friday night you and your buddies are like, hey, let's go out to eat, and you guys can be like, well, cool, what are you in the mood for? I'd like a hamburger. Yeah, hamburger sounds good. Okay, let's go get a hamburger. Okay, well, imagine if you were trying to make that decision with lawyers and HR reps and government officials and laws and regulations, and your accountant who was concerned about how much money you were spending, and like, okay, well, what hamburger place are you going to? Oh, that place is too expensive. Can you find a cheaper hamburger place? Isn't there something that would be 50 cents cheaper? And then now you've just spent the entire night trying to talk about.
Wait, where's that source? Is it ethically sourced?
Right.
How's the public going to perceive this? Is there an imaging problem? Is it like the list never ends? When you're
As many ridiculous level of decision making you could imagine. That's how these cars are built. So that's honestly a huge opportunity for us. We don't have to worry about any of that bullshit. We just get the car and we say, how can we make this better? Yeah. And we do it.
And we tell you what's going to change too. It's like when you buy an Audi or you buy an S4, you buy an S4. You don't buy an S4 with a little stiffer drivetrain and this and that and this mod and that mod to tailor it to yourself. There's not an endless list of options you can pick from. That's where we come in and give you those options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know. Any thoughts on the JXB driveshaft carrier? It looks like it's pretty functional and serves a purpose. Is 034 going to do one? Is this the driveshaft center support?
Yeah, I don't know.
We have a whole line.
Yeah, we have a whole line of them. I mean, there's some that we haven't tackled that JXP does.
We don't have anything for the B8 because the B8 is the drive shaft is not serviceable.
So his clamshells are.
Yeah. I don't think we will. We sell a ton of our normal drive shaft supports, but I think it's a product line that we won't necessarily be updating for newer models.
Yep.
We're putting our engineering focus on it. So if you need something for the B8 and JXP has it,
Yeah, nice.
he's a great guy, and
Everything I've seen, his
he
stuff
seems to be
solid.
doing some really good stuff. So happily, conceptually, I mean, I'm not here to vouch for anybody, but I would say you should probably have a good experience doing that. And,
Everything we've seen, been great.
you think I should get a timing chain service at 100,000 miles? I'm stage 2 plus. On your motorcycle?
I think this is a B8.
Yes.
B8 S4? I'm not an expert on B8 S4 maintenance, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's I've seen more and more things of guide failures and whatnot.
there's like rattling issues.
And then there's chain slap at startup, but I've also seen
my Q7 does that.
seen some timing chain guide and tensioner issues, but I don't have a good sample point on how widespread it is.
The ride on my RS4 B9 is really bumpy. Do you have any products that would address this? I've been kind of looking at this question. I don't really want to touch this one. I don't know why you think it's bumpy or what's bumpy about it. I don't necessarily. Our lowering springs have a great ride compared to factory. The ride's as good, but maybe it's slightly worse just because the car is lower and has a little less travel.
I don't know what this guy's on either.
But I'm not sure. Maybe you're driving on really rough roads. It's hard to say. So, but I would say specifically, we do not have any products to address bumpy ride in an RS5.
There's a lot of things that can contribute to that too, down to like wheel and tire choice can actually have a pretty big effect on that. So
Sure.
without knowing the exact specifics of the setup, that's a tough one to answer.
Is having low back pressure a problem for B8 3.0T?
Low back pressure.
Like in the exhaust?
Not that I've ever seen. No.
I don't. I think this person is relating to the concept of exhaust scavenging in aspirated motors, and turbo motors definitely don't benefit from exhaust scavenging because you have flowing pressure inside the exhaust manifold. It goes through the turbo, and then once the exhaust goes through the turbo, it just needs to get the fuck out of there as fast as it can to let the next pressurized charge.
You're dealing with pressure ratio across the turbo.
I think you could eliminate the exhaust on a supercharged motor as well, but there could be a benefit to exhaust scavenging on a B8 S4.
Yeah, I could see
compared to a turbo.
If you somehow perfectly tuned it, but given the space constraints and just physics of things available and volumes of space you can work in, I don't think that I've ever heard or seen of anything that's actually worked.
I think it would be a foolhardy tuning effort for the average, tuning car. Now, if some company went out and did it, there are some headers on the market. We have not seen that those produce any power increase really.
No.
So, yeah, I would leave the exhaust manifold stock on a BA 3.0T.
I want to say all of the records are with stock manifold. I believe.
Yeah, it's just
I'd have to check on Nate's specific build. I think he's stock manifold.
Yeah, I mean we've done a decent amount of testing here.
We have not had a reason to swap.
It's a waste of time. You just keep the stock exhaust manifold.
Pain in the ass to install too.
Yes, and this is the main issue is these cars are packaged so tightly. So to create an equal length header that could actually take advantage of scavenging probably wouldn't fit. And I think the factory does a good job of taking that into account.
Keep in mind, scavenging too is generally a very tuned, narrow band where that works because it relies on the harmonics and the rate of pulses and how everything's merging and when it merges together. And exhaust gas temperatures play as much of a factor in it all. So it's tough to get a setup that's going to make much more power at all. And then where it makes that power is probably going to be very limited.
Do ECU tunes take into account the quality of pump gas that's most commonly available in a specific region, e.g. typical California pump gas versus Florida?
I mean, it's yes, in the way that a factory ECU would. So we're
Yeah.
calibrating to a given octane. All of the, knock correction tables and all that are still there. All of the, octane considerations, how it's handled are still there.
Yeah, there is no fuel quality sensor. In fact, fuel quality doesn't really mean anything.
There's
So we would be talking about what is the octane of a fuel.
there are strategies in the
Is it accurate?
ECUs.
And there's no octane sensors.
There's not an octane sensor. There's reactive strategies
Yes.
where like a CMOS cars have what's it called? It's literally like bad gas map, or it's a poor fuel quality map. If you get
Based
some
on
terrible tank
knock
fuel,
detection.
and it's based on a reactive. Oh my god, I've got a lot of knock, and I'm trying to deal with this all the time.
So the short answer is that yes, our tunes and the factory ECU do take into account for excessive detonation based on fuel octane variances in various states and from various pumps, etc. So,
But there's a limit. I mean,
There's-
there's a reason your factory car says it requires 91 octane or 93 octane or whatever or more. Is it's expecting to have that amount of octane available, for the
Yes.
file. So if you're throwing 87 and it's hammering on it, like the ECU will figure it
you
out.
will damage.
Things will not go well for you.
But the difference between Florida 91 and California 91 it can easily be accounted for in our 91 map. The factory ECU has enough power and control to employ those strategies that Nate referred to. So we do not, as a result, we do not have or need specific files for regions. We don't need to do. And you can confidently run your 91 file in any state in the country. Thank you for the revision on the TCU tune. Night and day difference at normal throttle. Great to hear. So that canceled out the complaint, so we're good. Oh god.
So many questions here,
issues-
guys. We're not going to get through them all, so
Yeah.
I apologize.
I'm having issues with fueling for my Stage 2 E85 B9.5 S5. Sometimes it gives me fuel cuts because not enough fuel gets in the engine because it's limited on the stock high pressure fuel pump. What can I do to avoid this?
I'd like to know first off,
should not
what diagnostics you've done to determine that is your exact cause, and if you diagnose that, if you determine that if it's your low pressure or your high pressure, because if you're running low on fuel in the fuel tank, that can also present with exactly the same issue. On heavy accelerations, you'll get sloshing and you'll get cavitation on the fuel pump inside the tank, which means you can't provide enough low pressure to the high pressure pump, and then both your pressures drop.
Please email tuning at
Yeah.
034 Motorsports so we can help you with that.
We have run these files day in day out on the track, all kinds of different ways and scenarios, so it should be solid based on your stock pump.
Can I flash my B8.5 S5 from stock to stage 1 without a battery pack and headlights off?
Without a battery pack.
Then-
Without a charger.
Without a
You
charger.
can. We don't recommend it. You'll probably be fine. But the issue is, in those kind of outlying circumstances where you do have a problem, you'll brick the ECU and then you'll be mad at us. So
And
the only answer that we can give you is you should not do that. It's the kind of same thing your doctor would say. If you asked him, can I drink 20 beers a day and will I die? He'll say you should not do that. And you could do that and live 40 years and it might kill you after 3 weeks, And I've literally heard and experienced both situations in my life from people that I know. So the correct answer is no, you should not drink 40 beers a day and you should not try to flash your car without a charger. But you could probably get away some number of times. But if you don't blame us.
we're going to give you the
We're
best
sorry.
practices we're going to recommend.
How does altitude affect ECU tunes? With altitude, there are changes in air density, and so those air density changes are accounted for by a barometric sensor.
Yep.
And the factory ECU monitors the barometric pressure. Even if you're at sea level, you can have changes of barometric pressure. And then that has effects on different maps in the ECU, and then fuel and timing can be adjusted accordingly.
No, it's a big factor because it's exactly correlated to the amount of air density that the engine's going to be breathing in. So every modern vehicle has a barometric pressure sensor.
I think we're pretty much out of time. Do we have
Here,
time for one more?
Sure.
What do you think?
I don't know, I'm off that screen now.
Oh,
Shutting things down.
Well, 21 S4 with ECU Stage 1 and TCU Stage 2. For some reason, my auto start stop button never saves the setting. It will save for short periods, but not overnight. Is it supposed to be that way?
I gotta look back at that.
I think
Email
it's
tuning.
not normal.
No, it's not all.
Yeah, email tuning app. We'll take a look at that one. It might just be something for that specific box code we gotta look at.
I never.
You want to hit a quick one on GPF for RS5? Just came.
Yeah, sure.
Top one.
Any updates on ECU+TCU for RS5 with GPF?
Yeah, we are working with partners in the UK right now. We were talking with them last night, so we'll have more information. But it's gonna.
We're working on it.
Yeah,
It's-
we're working on it.
No imminent release date on that, but we are working on it. So stay tuned.
Yep. So yeah, I think we're good.
Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again, and hope you guys had a good Labor Day. We'll see you next week.